Hi everyone, welcome to a video for day 2 of the 2016 Cheltenham Festival. Hopefully by day 1 we would have got some money in the bank and ready for day 2. Just as an update on the day 1 videos, because obviously today is Monday, the festival starts tomorrow, so there's been some updates. None really affecting our number 1 picks apart from in one race, which I'm really sad to say, in the National Hunt Chase. RSA Chase doesn't go. Willie Mullins has done it to me again. I fancied Black Hercules most of the winter for the 4 miler. They whipped him out, then I fancied RSA Chase and they whip him out too. So nothing can be done there. So in terms of what to do and that one, I'm probably going to just look at my other selections, which was Noble Endeavour and Minella Rocco, and bring them forward. That's why I always look to pick 3 pretty much per race, just to see where it goes. Another one, York Hill, who I fancied to get a place possibly in the Supreme. He doesn't go. He's going for the longer trip of the Neptune, which, as I said, I suspected they might do because of his stamina in that line there. But anyway, this video is about day 2, and no better place to start than with the favourite and rightful favourite as well, and that is Yanworth. He's obviously he's a course and distance winner without being a course and distance winner together. So he's one at the course, he's one at the distance. So staying the trip should be no problem. He's improving all the time. He was a really good bumper horse. He looks an exceptional hurdler as well. And the good bit I like about this, the trials day was his best run to date without question. So everything seems to be right for him. He goes on any ground, and I think it's a case of if he stays on his feet, whoever beats him will win. But to be honest, I'm struggling to see Yanworth getting beat here, especially with the ground quickening all the time and no rain is forecast today or tomorrow. So it's just a case of hopefully everything's in one piece there. The only slight worry I have is the Alan King Yard's not in great form. They've just had an odds on Forgiving Glance overturn this afternoon, which was a bit of a shock, I must be honest. In a Mears hurdle, I think it was, and even at the race, I said they're not having the best of time at the moment, but hopefully they're just putting all the effort into the festival. Others to look at in this race though, Artois Phil, if it runs again for Willie Mullins, because he's entered in 3, he would be 3 for 3 on hurdles if not running out on his debut, which was, I've just watched that, it was the most bizarre thing. Something has caught his eye and he just went, and that's what's happened there. He was a grade 2 winner on his latest, and the big upside for this is the horse he beat in that grade 2, the one that came second, also came out next time and won a grade 2, so the form's been franked. The big thing here is you've got to take the ground on trust. His breeding suggests it needs soft ground, and all of his wins have been on soft and heavy ground, so it's going to be interesting to see how this one runs. Another one for Mullins again is Belshire. He's in there. He was very disappointed on his latest, but generally quite strong. But again, I think he needs heavy ground. I don't think he's going to run in this. I think they're going to keep him for the Albert Bartlett. I think it is all over 3 miles, because he just seems to be one pace, to be honest with you. So that's him there. 007 for the Henderson Yard. He's in really good form, though last time out he was easily held by the most likely danger for Yanworth, and it's a horse we mentioned at the start, and that is York Hill, again for Willie Mullins. He's gone for this rather than the Supreme, and I'm not overly surprised that they've done this because they have Min in the Supreme, and Min, as you know, I quite fancy that one. His stamina and everything this horse York Hill does appears to be all about stamina, and that's what this is about. So the thing which is going to be interesting here is they've got at least 2, maybe possibly 3, the Mullins Yard, real stamina horses, so tactics are going to be really, really interesting here. Yanworth's currently around 13 to 8, I think, best price, while York Hill's best price around 11 to 4, 3 to 1, so they seem to be the 2 to concentrate on. This race will come down to one or two things. If it's a normal race on good ground, which hopefully it will be, I think Yanworth's got the class to take him home here. I think this Yanworth, the further he goes the better. I think he could even be a Gold Cup horse one day. I really do rate him that highly. But York Hill is no slouch, and if it turns into a real stamina slog, then that could come more to York Hill's advantage. What I hope they don't do on Yanworth is mess around. I hope if he's still in there pitching, coming towards the last 2, just go for it, take it out, because you want to turn this into a speed test rather than a stamina test, which the horse has got gears, and I'm pretty confident that they can do it here. It's a really good renewal of the Neptune, but from 1, 2, 3 here, I'm going for Yanworth to beat York Hill, and I'm going to put Artois Phil in there again, just purely because he's got the most solid form outside of the big 2 in the market. Next up is the RSA Chase, and I honestly think this is one of the best races of the festival, and you can make a huge case for most of them. Black Hercules, as I said, was taken out the 4 miler. He's been put into this, but The reason he didn't run him over 4 miles, he said he runs very free, and last time he fell and he said, it puts pressure on his jumping. The RSA is usually run at a breakneck pace, and in this horse, while we know he stays, I just wonder if the pressure's going to be too much on his jumping. And also, as people know, I don't like backing horses that have had quite a heavy fall in either the race before or at least in the near vicinity of the festival. Black Lion for the Twisting Davises he's a standard horse. You know what you're going to get with him. He likes the course. He's in good form. The ground is okay, and he holds another horse in this race called Definitely Red quite comfortably here. He's all about stamina again, this horse, but I think he's got a really good chance, and if he can get into a rhythm, that's what it is with this horse. That's what it's all about. The one worry I have is, I said, he is just an out and out stayer, and this is going to turn more into a speedy type of test, I think, here. Vita de Rock for the Hendersons is interesting, because this time last year, or in a few weeks' time, he came second to Thistlecrack at Aintree, which obviously that form is pretty rock solid over hurdles now. Last time out, he won the Reynoldstown, which is usually a good indication for this race, though it's got to be taken on trust that he will stay this distance, but everything she does here does seem to think that will happen, could run a really good race. The one I like at a bigger price, but he's going to make up with 3, but not that's big 2. And that has got a horse called See You at Midnight, because basically it's an improving chaser. He's getting better every single run. But because he's not from one of the popular yards, I think he's from the Gardner Yard or somewhere like that, he's coming under the radar here. He comfortably beat Black Lion, who, as I said, I fancied to run a good race last time out. In a chase, and everything seems prepped for this one to run a really good race. The only question is does he have the class to lay it down to the big 2 in the market, which is what we're going to get to now. The first one to mention is No More Heroes for Gordon Elliott. They're saying he was an unlucky third in a hurdle race at the festival last year, but as I said on my first video when I was looking back on what's going to happen, it was a terrible ride by Brian Cooper in that mental couple of days that he had, where he cocked up the ride on Don Cossack, and then he cocked up the ride on this. He ran into the back of a horse and then tried to switch, and it was just a complete horror story. But this horse was always going to be about chasing. I remember I get some books on Irish form, etc., and they said anything he does over hurdles is a complete bonus. Chasing's what this one's all about. He's 3 for 3 since going over there, and last time out he looked like he had quite a bit left in the tank. The wild card here is the ground. If it's quick ground, he's never really gone on quick ground in anything, but the yard seems to think that quick ground's not a problem. And and the other thing that they said is whoever beats No More Heroes will win the RSA. Now the horse I'm siding with on this one, and it is with quite a bit of confidence in backing this one, and that is More of That for John Joe O'Neill, JP McManus, and no doubt Barry Garrett will be on it. He's only raced twice over fences, which some people say doesn't work to your advantage because the record of those who have raced apparently less than 3 times isn't that good. But what I like about this one, though, both of the wins that he's had have been over the course, and that is a huge one. The other thing you could argue is he's stepping up in trip. Will it be an issue? No chance at all, because a couple of years back he was the world hurdle winner on this type of ground. So the ground is good, the course holds no questions for him, and the way he jumped in the 2 races has been very, very good. Interesting as well that was said on ATR before. It's a weird one because, they actually said, we must have met with setbacks because he hasn't raced. That's actually not true. I've read a big article, watched it as well, with John Drew Neal, who said they've just basically been waiting for better ground because he's a different horse on better ground, and he said, while we could have done with more experience, why would we want to necessarily potentially bottom out or something going wrong on soft ground? And I completely agree with that decision. He goes very well fresh, and he hasn't run since December, so that's working in his favour. He stays very well, and More of That. Yeah, I think that's the way I'm going to go. There's nothing between them. They're both tied at 5 to 2 best price in the market, and it's going to be a great race. It's one of the ones I'm looking forward to most, and I'm really pleased to be there on the Wednesday. But I'm taking for More of That just from No More Heroes to come out there. So a 1, 2, 3 here and put More of That up to beat No More Heroes. But I'm also going to put in See You at Midnight at a big price, just purely because I think that horse would be around the Black Hercules Black Lion price of around 7, 8 to 1 if it wasn't from that yard. And so the fact that he's about 14, 16's in a place actually with, I think it's Bet365, is it at the moment? Yeah. I think that's overpriced. Going on to the Coral Cup, and we've got the problem again of a lot of these horses here are entered in every handicap race in the festival. One that jumps out to me here, obviously, is the Gordon Elliott trained Diamond King. He's in decent form, and I do think the extra distance and the ground going good will bring about improvement for him. And for that reason, he's not not a prolific winner. So for that reason, he could be on a half decent mark here, Diamond King. And obviously anything like the Irish send over, that could be well handicapped. That could be one of them. Politolog is interesting for the Nichols yard. He unseated on his debut, which isn't the best start. But in the past, he was second to Barter's Hill. It was only a 3-horse race, but he got within 12 lengths of him. So he's obviously got something about him. He's got a little bit of class about him. And last time out at Exeter, it was an egg and spoon race in a novice, but he won as easily as he liked. And the big thing about that day, he jumped well, very slick. Paul Nicholls said he's improved. And for that reason, you'd think he's on a good mark. The one question mark I have here is does he have the class for this? He very well might, but it's taken on trust, and I don't like to take things on trust. Another interesting one here is called Boulet de la Roque. I'm not French, I don't understand the pronunciations, but that's why I'm calling it Boulet de la Roque. He's in good form, and what I like about this horse, he beat the really well-regarded Value at Risk from the Skelton yard last time out. Though the interesting thing, he's on 140 as his mark, and that's really difficult to weigh up, because I'm not sure. You wouldn't say yes, he is amazingly well in, because I don't think he is. But the interesting thing, I've just read Paul Nicholls' article from the weekend, and he said we'd rather go for this. He could easily finish 5th or 6th in the Neptune, but we'd rather have a go at this. Now that's interesting, because the Neptune was the opening race of this day, and I said with the likes of Yanworth, York Hill, Atwafil, 007, there's some good horses, and he thought we could come in 5th or 6th. So he clearly thinks he has something about him, but you just don't know what you're going to get. Rock the Casbah is interesting for the Hobbs yard. The one thing I like about this, again, he's got one declaration in the festival, and it's for the Coral Cup. This has been his target, and I love it when yards do that. I have a lot more respect for yards when they do that, to be honest with you, because it gives the punters a chance, and also you're wearing your heart on your sleeve. I like that. This has been his target. He's been placed in a Group 3, so he's got a bit of class about him. He's largely consistent, again, without being an emphatic winner. And I think this horse has got a really good chance. He's towards the top of the weights, but I think they've built the season around this, and they've worked backwards accordingly over a couple of different trips, etc. and stuff like this. So I think he is going to run a really solid race. The horse I'm actually siding with is a bit of a strange one, and it's the Coral. So I suppose if anything's going to happen, you go for it. It's currently around 20-1, and it's for Dan Skelton. It's a horse called Longhouse Hall. He's a very good hurdler, and he's a very good chaser as well. Last time out at the course, he was travelling really, really well, and then unseated the rider. He's back over hurdles on a good mark. As you know, I don't like it where it's a change of plan, but the one thing I would say about it is, because he's been running over fences for so long and now he's back over hurdles, he is on an amazing mark. He clearly likes the course. Forget the unseating, he's won over the course before, he's been placed in better races, and at the prices, as I said, getting on 20-1, it's overpriced, and I think that's one of the plays I'm going to do in here. I always do a couple in the Coral Cup, because you often get 5 or even 6 places, so he's going to be my number 1 pick. But from a 1-2-3, I'm putting in Longhouse Hall from Rock the Casbah and Diamond King. Interestingly enough, Diamond King and Rock the Casbah, I think, are in the same colours that they run in, the Diane Waitley colours, so that'll be interesting to see which carries the first colour hat as well. That might give an indication of what they think is the number 1 pick. But as I said, I would encourage you possibly to back a couple in that race, because it is that competitive. On to the big race of day 2, and it's the Queen Mother Champion Chase. Last year was far from a vintage renewal, and this year's different, because Underso was the Arkle winner. He was the big beast of the horse that destroyed the Arkle field last year, and everyone thinks that the world's at his feet here. The problem we got here is the rivals. Technically it's the problem, but it's also the other one. Last year, Dodging Bullets won, but Sprinter Sacre clearly wasn't right last year. Sierra de Grugy was pushed to get back, clearly not right last year, and the others just haven't gone on to do much else. This year, Sire de Grugy and Sprinter Sacre are both a completely different kettle of fish. They both had really good seasons so far, but Underso is the Arkle winner. He's impressive. The one worry you've got to have, he's fallen twice already, and I think he's only had 6 or 7 chase starts and he's fallen twice, so he's fallen in a third of them. Something Willie Mullins says that he doesn't necessarily always respect the fences, but what he said last time at Ascot was, we got to the lead easily and he settled and weighed up his fences, etc., and everything else like that. That's very well and good. The worry I've got is there's a horse in here called Special Tiara who placed last year, and this horse just goes absolutely tear-arsing off in front. He's won the Celebration Chase, he's run well in Tingle Creeks, etc. and stuff like this, and he's better on better ground. He got placed last year, but I think this is a stronger renewal than last year, so I think he could burn himself out here or set it up. But at the same extent, I do have this massive worry that he's going to upset Undersoo as well. That's the worry. The only chance he's got, but this is what we don't know, is if unless he decides, right, let's take a pull and, you know, trying for a place rather than for the win. But if the both of these go absolutely flying off, you're going to be having your heart in your mouth with Undersoo, because if he does start to take liberty at his fences, he's got that Moscow Flyer syndrome. I've said it, where as easily as you could win impressively, he could end up on the ground. I think 4-6 though is a fair price, because technically if he loses a third of the time, that means you've got a 66% chance of winning. So he should be a price, I think, of around 1-2. So if we're getting around 8-15, 8-11, I think it's a fair price. But for me, I think he's the most likely winner, but I'm not backing him. And I'll tell you for why in a second. But we'll keep going through the field. As I said, Special Tiara we've mentioned. God's Own has got the chance. He got placed behind Undersoo in the Arkle last year, just hunting around at the back and coming through, but he's been very, very poor this season. He's going to have to jump back. A horse I actually like, who's a stablemate of Undersoo, is Felix Younger. He was really expected to win over 2.5 mile at the festival last year and didn't, and people felt really let down by it. This year they've dropped him back to 2 mile, and if you watch it, he travels better, he jumps better, and he stays on at the end. So I think he is a natural 2 miler horse. He's in good form, and he's currently around 14-1, and I think that's a cracking each way bet. Felix Younger, to be honest with you, I wouldn't put anyone off doing it. Sire de Grugy, obviously the former champion Chase. Last year they struggled to bring him back. His jumping went to pieces last year. They struggled to bring him back, and it didn't quite go to plan. He's been in decent form this year, but he has been turned over by the likes of Sprinter Sacre, not relatively easy at Kempton, because Kempton, it doesn't really suit Sprinter Sacre. Well, Sprinter Sacre is holding Sire de Grugy. Dodging Bullets is the reigning champion, but everyone knows he's had splint problems. His comeback run was probably, came third, but it's going to be an unbelievable improvement in literally 3 weeks between that and this, to suddenly go and claim the Queen Mother again, and I can't see him doing it. He should come on for it, and he could run a cracking race, because as you know, the seasons are built around Cheltenham. But to be honest, I think he was a lucky winner of it last year, and I just don't think he's got the improvement in him. The horse I'm siding with, and it's not a sentimental pick, I've just got the feeling about it, and the other reason is you can do it as an each way bet to nothing, and that is the Black Aeroplane. That is Sprinter Sacre, again another former champ. This season he has been well and truly back. He beat Sire de Grugy in a fight last time, and you know what, I'm glad that he did that rather than just pulverise everyone, because it proves that the heart is still there after his heart problem. And he just dug in that day, and he just has that little bit of class. The one thing I'm coming to though is his win in the RSA Chase, his first time out this season, when he battered Summersby, who's also again here. Fair play to that horse, he keeps coming back to festival. But Sprinter Sacre hammered him on that comeback run, and it's something about Sprinter Sacre and Cheltenham. He comes alive at Cheltenham. Last year I watched the Queen Mother, he got pulled up. Coming down the hill, I thought he's going to win this again, and then clearly he just blew up, and Nicky Henderson said he was never right at any point last year, Sprinter Sacre. This year he's a completely different horse, and while he's always got something to prove, at 5-1 some are giving him now, unless something goes, well, put it this way, if something goes wrong with this horse, this Wednesday's going to be the last time we'll see Sprinter Sacre, I'm convinced of that. But Nicky Henderson recently said in a stable tour, someone is going to lay it down to Undersoo and just see how good he is, and maybe it'll be Sprinter Sacre. When you've got a horse that's good, see, like the likes of Simmons, they just said, nah, it's not worth it, we're not taking the risk, he's out the festival type thing. They've kept this horse going, so clearly he's showing a lot, I think. And my bet I'm going to do here is Sprinter Sacre each way. I'd rather take the each way on him than the win on Undersoo with that jumping worry. As I said, Undersoo might come and pulverise the field, it would not surprise me, but it's that risk element to it. So that's the renewal of the Queen Mother. My 1, 2, 3, Sprinter Sacre from Undersoo, and I'm going to put Felix Younger in there as well because that's overpriced. The Cross Country Chase comes next, and it's a race that I've been placed twice on in the last 2 years with a horse called Any Currency. And do you know what? I think this horse has got a great chance again. Anyone who follows me on Twitter will see that I've got a good rapport coming up now with the Keighley yard. There is also a chance I'm going to see the horse on the morning of the race on the Wednesday. I'm just waiting to get the go-ahead for that, which will be superb. The one thing about this horse, I think the price currently of 12-1 is a complete insult, to be honest with you. He's a course and distance winner, which is the big thing about it. He's been placed in 2 festivals, going down by very small margins. And the big one about it, last time out, yes, it didn't go right. He had Richard Johnson on it, who, nothing against Richard Johnson, he doesn't know this horse. He does not know this horse at all, and he was a late put in there. And to be honest, I don't think he necessarily got the best of rides. The interesting one, the yard just said he necessarily wasn't fully right. You know, it just wasn't his day, basically. Anyone can have a bad day. The one thing about any currency is, though, he goes well fresh and he hasn't run since December, and I think that's great. And the one thing you forget is his first run this season, he went down by only 1.25 lengths to the favourite here, Josie's Order, who's 3-1. He was actually given Josie's Order £23, which is staggering, and only went down by 1.25 lengths. Now, if you ignore the last run, when you actually think about this, any currency was favourite on this last run. Josie's Order's 11-4, 3-1, and any currency is 12-1, and in fact, I'm just looking now, 14-1 in some price boost places. I can't have that much of a discrepancy between the horses. His work apparently has been second to none. He's travelling really well. He's not getting any older at 13. But again, looking for the value, any currency, 12-1 is craziness. Josie's Order's a worthy favourite. He's had 2 course and distance wins. He's won both. You can't ask any more of that. This race is off level weights, though. It's not a handicap. So while this horse is improving, 11-4 on a 4-mile race around the cross-country circuit is plenty short enough for a horse that's only won round there twice. Amazing to see Balthazar King back for Philip Hobbs. He's not run since an absolutely sickening injury to his ribs in the Grand National last year. And funny story behind this, the vet for my dog, his wife is one of the ones who actually treated Balthazar King and brought him back to good health. As I said, though, that was an awful injury. He doesn't necessarily go great fresh, and is he still in love with the game after that? It's a lot to be taken on trust, but to be honest, he could run a great race. He's a former winner of this race. He's got the class element, but it will be a hell of a training performance to come back after a year. Quantitative easing is another mainstay in here. He got carried out in this race last year when going really well. But if you look back through his form on these races, he either runs really well or he's tailed off. He is such a hit and miss horse, and he's again around 7-1. It's not a great price. He for as good as he could go and win, he could pull up or just not show an interest, and that's always a worry. Sayer Collonge was really unlucky in November. He slipped up in November. When still travelling pretty well. He's consistent over this course and distance. He was second to Joss's Hill later, but didn't have anything in there, so it's hard to see him reversing the form with him, or even any currency, to be honest with you, if any currency's on a going day. The big fly in the ointment here is Foxrock for Ted Walsh. He is the ultimate class horse of the race. Putting him over this cross-country circuit for the first time, which is a huge risk, because will he take to it or not? But at Christmas, he was a length behind Don Poley, who's like second, third favourite for the Gold Cup. So on a line through that, he could be anything. The only thing that's stopping me going for this horse is that it is his first run over these type of fences, and money's been wasted on this one at Cheltenham. He was in, I think it was the Ryanair or something the other year, and did nothing. So even though it's not the traditional Cheltenham course, you've got to take it under advisement that maybe, I don't know, maybe he doesn't travel well. That's something to take into consideration. It looks a really good renewal, the cross-country chase, but from 1, 2, 3, I'm going for any currency to be Josie's Order and Foxrock. I'm going to put in there. Bit of time on the Fred Winter here, because again, horses entered in everything. But the one thing to look at here is the last time out winners have a great record in this race. So I've started to go through them as the first port of call. Frodon for Paul Nicholls actually has form behind a Keighley horse called Solstice Star. And actually gave weight to Solstice Star and it finished quite close to him. Solstice Star then nearly got placed, did get placed in the Imperial Cup when close to winning at the weekend. So on a line through that, Frodon must have a half decent chance. Ardemir is improving. He won last time out, but he needs to. I think he's got quite a bit short. Harley Rebel would be interesting to turn out again, because he won at a walk at Sandown. He's improving all the time, and I think he's on a really good mark. The only question mark here is to suddenly turn out from a Saturday to a Wednesday and then win again. Will be a hell of a going. Jaleo is interesting for John Ferguson, very consistent, and one thing about this horse, he only does enough. He doesn't smash fields, he just does enough to win, and for that reason I think he's on quite a nice mark. The good ground is a key to him. They kind of put him away since before Christmas, so I think he's on a good mark. He should get his good ground, and I think he could run a really big race at that price, around 14-16 to 1. Compiador, again, another tricky one. Gordon Elliott, he's in really good form, but the one thing about this horse is this has been his long-term target, and Gordon Elliott knows how to win this race. He knows what he needs. I do suspect his mark is quite high, though, so for that reason he's not quite my pick to win, because I think he's probably about £4 or £5 too high, but I think he'll go mighty close. But my idea for the winner here is I'm actually tipping up Diego de Chamille for Paul Nicholls. It's his first time out from France, so it's a massive punt. But one thing he's done is before, Au Petit Soir last year, first time out from France, won and seemed to be thrown in. A couple of years ago we had one called Cat Gary, first time out from France, got hampered at the bottom of the hill, flew home and got beaten half a length by Hawkeye. Paul Nicholls, especially at Cheltenham, knows how to get one straight from France and put